paint removal. It's pretty ridiculous to do it this way, but the only way I could figure to do it, it's not going to hurt the rack any. It's heavy tubing. So just heating it up, burning that stuff off of there, we'll see how it goes. Got this back rack to do too, so we'll show you how it turns out in the end. It'll be pretty sweet. Okay, well, we got these things stripped down in the fire. Now we've got them all covered with POR 15. And they look great. They look like they're powder coated. And that POR 15 is about as hard as powder coat. So we have to let it dry overnight, and we'll hit it with a top coat tomorrow. That'll protect it for UV and stuff like that so this doesn't fade. Okay, some of you are totally aware of the madness going on in my brain. This is kind of my recovery from physical and post-traumatic stuff. And anyway, this is where we're at right now. I got a super good deal on this Trek stuff from a local box store here. They had a whole pallet of it that was returned because it was the wrong color or something. So I picked up some of it, and I thought, well, that's a perfect way to cover that back rack without getting beat up too bad. Came out really clean. Some nice round corners on it here. So when a person's riding on it back, if you put somebody up there and they don't have any sharp spots or whatever, wow. Put down with all stainless steel hardware. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at. Next thing we're going on to here is we're going to try to figure this one out. I had a kind of a rinky-dink setup before last year, made out of plywood up front. Had my the saw mounted over here on this side. Gonna do something a little bit more permanent and a lot more rigid than plywood. So just kind of follow along here and we'll see what we can do. Try not to make this boring, but got a lot of other things to take care of. I gotta build a fairlead that isn't something that came from a cereal box. I swear this thing is just the biggest POS I've ever dealt with right there. Totally backwards. You know, this is where we'll start. I'm going to take the reflector off here. We don't need this on here. Take this off. Just looks like two-way sticky tape to me. We'll save that for a rainy day. So we're at 16 inches here. Let's see if we can get the tape measure to work. Get the tape measure to measure, right? So 16 is where we're going to make it. We're going to have to adjust that a little bit in the end, but we think we'll be all right. The old Grizzly bandsaw here. If, this is a big if too, if it'll cut straight. So here we go. So that's the best way I know how to cut them the same length, right there. So we're getting ready here to weld the horizontal to the front space. I'll tell you what, I don't know how this is going to go. I haven't used this in a couple weeks. Let's see where we're at. Should have enough wire, enough fire. Let's see what kind of shit we can screw up here. Just need to tack it for now. start. Okay, so this is what we end up with in the end. This is basically just going to be a, you know, like a holster for that weld, or the chainsaw at the welder over talking. Anyway, I'll turn that off. So this will mount on the bike and the bar will slide into this. We're going to put something underneath here so the saw doesn't bounce up and down. Basically, that's what we're going to start with right there. And the welds turn out pretty good. We'll see how they dance on the bike. Okay, so we've got the bracket put together. Now we're going to take a piece of this Trex. I'm going to force this in here. It'll be pretty solid when I get it all in there. Don't want to get too crazy. Anyway, I cut a couple grooves in here that match up with that. Now, we're going to cut the saw blade into this with the router. Lay the saw blade on here, we'll trace it out, and then we'll router that out, put that back in there, and we'll put a top board in, the top of this thing. And that should seal things up pretty tight as far as holding the bar and stuff in place. So don't want to get too crazy here. We'll never get this thing out of here for sure, if it's not already too late. Oh boy, time for some prying power. Let's see here. Is this a pryor? There's something. This is Richard Pryor. Of course, he's probably funnier than that. There we go. So we're to this stage, is we've got a piece routed out now. This is basically Trex. So we've got that in there, and we've run the router through it and cleaned it up pretty good. Basically, this is what we've got, is this is going to fit in that recess that I've cut into this down in the bottom here. I don't know if you can see that recess. So that's going to slip in there pretty good. Now we'll put another piece, thin piece on top of this, and then we'll weld a piece of plate on the top of this for mounting. That'll hold some of the work. Something you have to take into consideration is there's a lot of vibration here. You want to mark this pin, you know, your hole right here, you want to mark that. And the reason you want to mark that is you're going to have a pin that goes down through this. It's going to go through this hole. That's what's going to hold your saw in this bayonet receiver here, in this holster. And without that, you could bungee cord the thing on there, but that's just, yeah, that ain't going to fly. So we'll just keep moving forward here and show you what we end up with in the end. Okay, one of the things is any of these projects like this, if you don't know how to sharpen something, this, chainsaw, pocket knife, whatever, those are the first things you need to master before you start doing any craziness like this. So what I'm doing here is making the top piece of that holster for that saw. This is going to go in the top part of that holder that I got. So I'm just kind of working this out here. I've already ripped it with the saw a couple of times. Just need to get those little ripples out of there, those little grooves. Clean this up a little bit. Pretty rough. What's nice about this stuff is it's kind of, it is plastic with, you know, sawdust in it basically. Actually, there's some metal in here too in places, this Trex stuff. I don't know if this is actually Trex, but it's like Trex. It's kind of some composite stuff. So, just gonna work this stuff a little bit here. Get this next rib out of here. once we're done with this, we'll put this in place and start working on tying it together with a couple of welds. So the bar board looks like this on one side. The other side, it's channeled for the bracket. And then the top board, a lot of this is just done with a grinder and a skill saw. This will drop in the channel. That'll fill in the channel. We'll hit this with a shot of paint real quick. This is etching primer, like etching primer for everything. So I'm gonna hit that, let that sit for a few minutes, put the fire to it already. It's pretty much dry already. And we'll finish it off with some paint and stuff. This is to keep the rust down on the welds, even though it was galvanized. We're in a bloody rainforest here. Yeah, water can rust. So anyhow, there's that. We'll get back to the next part when we assemble this thing. Well, this is what you end up with right here. We've got the first piece in here. You see where it's cut in there for the saw. The second piece is going to lock in the top. There's going to be some trimming up here that's going to need to happen. And just to check and make sure the bar is going to roll in there. Oh yeah, that's going to work out sweet. So there's the sandwich for the bar. That's going to weld on in front just like that, and that's going to hold the saw right there. You're going to have to drill a hole in here. So we've got that already marked. I'm going to punch it through one way, put the second piece in, punch it back through the other way so we know where we're at. So that looks pretty simple, huh? This thing comes apart the same way, kind of way it goes together, and it's always a pain, for sure. So I'm not worried about any damage here. We got to trim it down probably 3/8 of an inch. So there's the bar mark. Right now we're going to confirm that real quick before we do that. Always confirm everything. Actually, that looks pretty bloody good right there. We're going to get that out of the way. See if we can't find the right size drill bit for that. Maybe even a step bit. But what are we looking at here? Probably 3/8 is going to be pretty tight. So let's look at. Wow, one's out here 7/16 is probably more. Yeah. So 7/16 is the next size bigger than that, which is the size that we want to go with. So just simply drill that out. If it's got enough juice. Not enough juice, gotta get another battery. Which is no problem, we got a half dozen of these things. So we're gonna go ahead and grind this out here. The other nice thing about drilling this thing out like that for a pin, nobody's going to steal this off your machine. If I think about it, but boy, I'll tell you what, when they hit the wall with a 7/16 or 3/8 pin, that's going to really stop them right there in their tracks. So that's how I like to do stuff, is just kind of overkill. Call it overkill if you want, but tell you what, I've never had much of anything stolen, and it's kind of frustrating when my friends are like, oh, I had this stolen or that stolen, and it's like, bro, lock shit up, you know? Fix your doors. I mean, this bad boy's got a steel plate and trigger switch and, you know, some other tactical defense things that come around to the yeah, anyway, just them things, you know. So when you thread the deadbolt, you got that thing energized. So anyway, always got something going on in my head for sure. Give me a little bit, get this put together. I gotta run across town here and get pizza of all things. Mama may I. We'll grind it and we'll have that licked. Just a matter of doing it. 40 grit. Quick work of that. Just plastic and sawdust. Probably not the best thing you'd be breathing, but done. Okay, well, I've got the POR 15 on this bad boy now. So, you know, we tack welded it along here in about 8 spots, and then, you know, add a little bit of support there. It looks tiny, but those are 3/8 chromoly rods, just to kind of keep the rattle out of things. POR 15, I'm telling you, that's some good stuff, but do not get it on anything that you do not want it to stay on for a long, long time, because it will stay on it for a long, long time. Skin included. Gasoline, fingernail polish, acetone, none of that stuff will even remove it. So anyway, there's that. Just letting this stuff dry, and then we have to put a top coat on it. The top coat will give it a UV protection. This turns kind of a, well, kind of that color gray. After a while in the sun, it starts breaking down because there's no UV protection. But once you put the UV2, which is a clear spray, or the top coat on it, in pretty good shape. So we'll keep pushing forward. And while this is drying, I'm going to start working on the fair lead. Okay, well, here's the final application of this bracket and how it's going to work out. Plenty of room here, even when you're on this machine. Run it like this for a long time. I'm 6'2.5", and I still got, you know, plenty of room all around. There's plenty of room between the handlebars and that machine. Doesn't impair it at all. So one of the things you got to think about here is what kind of saw are you going to have. I chose the 170, not because it's a heavy duty high use saw. It's light, it's inexpensive. That's why I went that route, and it's effective. So just an idea of how this thing holds on here. Remember the hole we put through the top? This is a little rusty. You got to clean that up a little bit. So I got a pull pin, you know, just a regular pin, and it's a little rusty from sitting around here for a couple days anyway. It's just that simple. And the saw pulls right out of here. Just like that. I put a little rubber cushion in the on the bottom there, and this whole idea here is something new from my last one that I had on my, you know, they'll have the old plywood one from last year. The saw had a little bounce in it going down the trail. Had a little bounce in it out here. That's going to take it out of that. So we won't have that problem to deal with. Gas tank up, so we don't have any fuel spillage. Not sure about this Mickey Mouse box thing that we got on here. Still kind of scratching my head on that one. Has an option to put a windshield on here, you know, so. But a lot of the places that we go, that's probably going to be scraping on limbs and logs. Logs bigger around than that trash can, closer to the size of that truck. You'll see those videos coming up. If you want to go back through YouTube and look at some of those videos, you're welcome to. But anyway, that's what we got going on.
Had a lot of other things, you know, just tons of stuff to do and never enough time to do them. And you know, we got this wonderful stuffy nose today. I've been struggling with COVID over the last couple of days, believe it or not. All of us, all 4 of us at home here, wiped out. Kids' last couple of weeks of school, they've been hammered. So they're kind of missing out on some things there. But that's what we're served with, so that's what we have to deal with. Anyhow, I'm going to cut this short so I can go edit this. Anyway, there it is. Nothing more than just simple. And I don't know if I explained the POR 15. The reason I use that and I strip everything down to bare steel is I am in Washington in the northwest United States here. We're in the rainforest, and even on the nicest of nicest days, the humidity never gets very low here. And if it's bare steel or has electricity running through it or can oxidize it, it will. So that's why we go that route. Anyhow, there you have it. Next mission is the fair lead. We got to work on that. The Mickey Mouse one that we got is kind of a cheesy POS, and it has to be fixed. It can't take a bump. These things that you buy for under $100, they're lightweight, you know, 1/8-inch steel. They look rigid. You wouldn't want to drop it on your toe, but you run 500 or 600 pounds into a stump out there in the ferns, and it'll bend it up, and yeah, then it doesn't work right. So we're gonna fix that with some chrome moly stabilizer bush sway bars and some angle iron. Let's see what we can do with some chrome. All right, thanks a lot, guys, and you know, don't feel, go ahead and share these videos if you want to. It's just hobby stuff, you know. Something my kids can go back on or whatever. That's all it's about. Bye.